which he had to bear with. In light of this, Sadia has continued to soldier on against all odds. Descriptions were given of Sadia as a brave lady, and I don't know how we'll describe her, but she's a tough, strong, resilient, and a transformative leader, as I will say. Thank you very much, Sadia, for your zeal and for your efforts and contributions towards the community. About the book, although I may not have read through the book, but I'm sure it's a reminiscence of pain, of horror, of health compromises, of the social stigma, of an emotional disturbance, a daunting memory, cruelty, and so many actually negative experiences that Sadia and those like her who agitate within communities that actually practice the practice face. I'm sure it also has a list of childhood lifelong negative experiences, but it remains to be a treasure to us now. And as the speaker before me has said, this book is the first of its own we are experiencing at the national level, and I'm sure it will help a great deal in fighting and stamping out the vice of FGM. About FGM, I will not wish to talk much about it. We all know the effects and its badness. However, as I skimmed through the book, on the origins of FGM, the pharaohic type of circumcision, which is the practice, has been mentioned in page 35. And in fact, as mentioned from even the person with which it is named, it was not something desirable, and it's not something that actually should exist within us. A barbaric introduction of a dictator at a time who wanted to keep on ruling, who had decided that he would introduce circumcision so that no man comes after him. And in order to make sure that he knows of the baths, we are told in history that he's the one who introduced circumcision. However, it's unfortunate that some people also still misconceive it to be a religious practice, which is not the case. On prevalence, as has been said, the prevalence is still high at 21% at our national level. It's still something to be worried about. In terms of the government interventions, and that was the main issue that I was supposed to be dealing with. The government of Kenya is a signatory to both international as well as regional instruments for prevention and protection and promotion of the rights of the child and the welfare of the child. Kenya is a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Rights and the Welfare of the Child, and in Article 3, the best interest of the child is mentioned, and FGM does not include the best interest of the child. In the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, Article 4 also states the best interest of the child. It's not also in the best interest of the child to do FGM. East African Community, where also Kenya is a member, had also enacted the Female Genital Mutilation Act 2016. Our Constitution of Kenya rightly tells us also about the rights and welfare of the child, and it prohibits any form of torture, mutilation, violence against the child, including FGM. The Children's Act 2001, Section 14, on the protection of harmful cultural practices, deters FGM and any other form of harmful cultural practice against the child. Section 119, 1H and Q categorizes children who undergo the cut or who are likely to undergo the cut as children in need of care and protection. Further, in Section 22, provisions are given for the enforcement of the rights of children whose rights are infringed, including the case of FGM. We also have the prohibition of the FGM Act, number 32 of 2011. Further, the government has put in place several agencies to promote and to agitate again, to promote actually the rights and welfare of the child, and also to fight against the general infringement of the rights of the child, including subjecting to FGM. Agencies and partners in the child protection include, but not are limited to, the National Council of Children's Services, the Department of Children's Services, the Kenya Police Service, the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, the Anti-FGM, Genital Mutilation Board, Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government, National Council of Administration of Justice and the entire judiciary, Office of the Attorney General and the Department of Justice, Ministry of Education, community and other non-state actors. And as has been said rightly by Sheikh Rashid just before me, the November 2019 presidential statement also inspires us to ensure that FGM will be a long forgotten history in the near soon. With those few remarks, thank you very much, and once again, congratulations, Sister Sadia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Our next speaker is Honorable Esther Passaris, the Nairobi women representative, and she's going to speak on the role of Parliament in ending female genital mutilation.
Good afternoon. First of all, distinguished guests, High Commissioner, the CEO, the Anti-FGM Board, it's lovely to see men. NCCS. Yes, and NCCS, yes. It's lovely to see men stepping up in such an event, because in most cases, you would not look at a book launch and think, wow, I need to be there. But the fact that you're here shows that not only are you respecting Sadia and what she's done and her role in the FGM crusade, but also the issue at hand. You know, it's a Friday afternoon. I know mosques are not open, but at the end of the day, I'm really grateful to see both of you here. Ladies and gentlemen, and those who are, of course, joining us on social media, I'm very proud of Sadia. Very proud. I actually handed her an award a few years ago for the good work that she does. We've got a long way to go, but Parliament has done quite a bit, all right? A bit too late, and I think also the Muslim faith, the sheikhs, I saw recently said that FGM was not in the Quran, but it took so many years of women being brutalized before they actually said it wasn't in the Quran. It was just a culture. It was not something that was wanted by the Prophet. So in 1983, the President issued a decree against FGM. Those practicing it were required to stop the practice or face legal action. As a result, many communities continued to practice in secret, inviting the circumcisers to their homes without the knowledge of the authorities. Following the 1993 UN Declaration on the Elimination of All Forms of Violence Against Women, Kenya developed a national plan of action for the elimination of FGM. The UN Declaration required governments to commit themselves to condemn violence against women, punish offenders, and address issues surrounding gender-based violence. This sparked even more interest in addressing FGM. This was further reinforced by the International Conference on Population and Development in Cairo in 1994 and the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing in 1995. Following the ICPD, Kenya developed a population policy that was known as Sessional Paper Number 1 of 2000 on the Population Policy for Sustainable Development, which advocated against FGM. The Children's Act came into force in 2001, empowered the courts to punish those who facilitate the practice of FGM. While FGM declined somewhat in Kenya, 1 in 4 women was still being cut. This led the government to introduce a more comprehensive law, the Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation Act 2011. which stipulates stiffer punishment for offenders, which includes imprisonment for life. In addition to comprehensive national policy for the abandonment of FGM, which was put in place in 2010, the policy calls for stakeholders to take concrete steps to promote the abandonment of FGM through legislation, public education, advocacy, media coverage, the empowerment of women, access to reproductive health, and other supportive services. These laws and policies were supported by the 2010 Constitution of Kenya, which reaffirms the government's commitment to protect and promote human rights and fundamental freedoms. The Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation Act, number 32 of 2011. This act meant to address female genital mutilation in Kenya. It is meant to prohibit the practice of female genital mutilation, to safeguard against violation of a person's mental and physical integrity through the practice of female genital mutilation. The act gives a clear definition of female genital mutilation in Kenya. It establishes that Anti-Female Genital Mutilation Board, whose functions are as follows: to design, supervise, coordinate public awareness programs against the practice of female genital mutilation, generally advise government on matters relating to female genital mutilation in Kenya and the implementation of this act, to design and formulate a policy on planning, financing, and coordinating on all activities relating to female genital mutilation, provide technical and other support to institutions, agencies, and other bodies engaged in the programs aimed at eradication of female genital mutilation in Kenya, design programs to facilitate resource mobilization for activities aimed at eradicating the vice, perform all other such functions that may be assigned by any written law. The offenses include including a person undergoing a course of training while under supervision by a medical practitioner or a midwife with a view to becoming a medical practitioner or a midwife who performs female genital mutilation on another person, aiding and abetting female genital mutilation, procuring a person to perform female genital mutilation in another country, use of premises to perform female genital mutilation, possession of equipment and tools for female genital mutilation, failure to report the commission of the offense, use of derogatory and abusive language towards those who have not undergone female genital mutilation, or for a man marrying or otherwise supporting a woman who has not undergone the female genital mutilation. The Children's Act, number 8 of 2001, section 14 of this act, states that no person shall subject a child to female genital mutilation, early marriage, or any other cultural rites, customs, or traditional practices that are likely to negatively affect the child's life, health, social welfare, dignity, physical and psychological development. The Penal Code. Chapter 14 of the Penal Code on murder and manslaughter contains provisions that might relate to the offenses arising out of FGM, especially in relation to Section 202 to 206. Section 204 prescribes the death sentence for anyone guilty of murder in accordance with Section 202 and 203. Applies to circumstances of death as a result of female genital mutilation. The Medical Practitioners and Dentists Act. Section 9, 3, 20, and 21 of this Act provides for the cancellation of license for any medical practitioner who, according to Section 20, is convicted of an offense under this Act or under the Penal Code, Chapter 63, whether the offense was committed before or after coming into operation of this Act, or if, after inquiry by the Board, is found to have been guilty of any infamous or disgraceful conduct in a professional respect, either before or after the coming into operation of this Act. In November 1996, the Kenya Parliament defeated a motion to make the practice of female genital mutilation in Kenya illegal. Previously, in 1982 and 1989, the former President Moi had issued a presidential decree banning the practice. So I was told to come and let you know what has Parliament done and what is Parliament doing. I was with the President for Women Deliver in Vancouver, where he took to the stage and he made commitments. At the same time, when he was making a commitment to make sure that it ends by 2022, we had a case running in court here where somebody was saying that we should be allowing female genital mutilation to continue in our hospitals. So the law is the law, and of course the law is superior, but people can go to court to try and find ways in which to enforce these cultural practices. You know, at the moment we've got the Reproductive and Health Rights Bill about to come to the Senate, and of course it's raising a lot of temperatures. And it was just yesterday I was speaking to one of the Somali members of parliament, and I was telling her, how do you deal with rape in your communities? And you know, I never slept last night, because she said, we don't let the girl abort. We don't permit abortion. Abortion is wrong. And I said, so what do you do? They say, we make the girl tell us exactly who raped her. And when she tells us who raped her, we identify and find the boy. And then we get the boy and the girl to get married. I wondered, what was the bigger crime? Aborting the fetus so this little girl doesn't become a mother when she's not ready to be a mother, all right? Or actually having this little girl marry her rapist. And you know what the sad part is? We still don't have enough women talking and standing up to the men and saying, no, my daughter will not marry this person. My daughter would rather have an abortion, right? And carry on with her life because she has to heal. She was raped. She's a child, or even if she's a woman, brutally raped, taken by force, impregnated, and then you're told that the solution of the community is to make you marry your rapist. So we have a lot of work to do. I think we need to reach a point where men stop playing God. I don't think anybody has a letter of appointment from God saying that you're my assistant. So we have the 10 Commandments in the Bible. And yesterday, I mean, I had my own fair share of insults from members of parliament telling me that I'm the devil because I'm advocating for pro-choice and the rights for women to decide about their bodies on whether they want to have a child or not have a child. And it made me realize, and I told them, the 10 Commandments, one of them is thou shalt not commit murder. But you know, a fetus at 9 to 12, 8 to 12 weeks, which most countries have legalized, including Greece, which had Christianity from the 4th century. We only got it in 1844. And now we're becoming holier than thou. We are so religious, but we forget that the 10 Commandments are equal in law. Thou shalt not lie. I don't see men rising up and talking to each other about how they lie, how they commit adultery, how they steal. I mean, heck, almost everyone who's going to be a legislator in the parliament who's going to fight against the reproductive health care bill has had their hands in the cookie jar. And then on top of it, they have the right to stand as moral authority against the reproductive health rights of a child, of a woman. I have a woman who came to my office recently, and she said, her name is Leonora, and she said, Mom, I have 8 children. I have no job. I have no food. I can't pay my rent. I went to visit this woman's house, and I was appalled at how she lives in Nairobi, in our capital city. 8 children. I asked her, why did you have 8 children? She goes, because I couldn't access family planning. I didn't know better. All right? And in the initial stages, the church was saying it was wrong to have family planning. I said, then go back to that church and tell them you have 8 children and you need them to feed these children, you need them to house these children, you need them to educate and clothe these children. Of course, the church is not going to do that. It's going to give you a nice sermon and tell you, God says give, and if you give, you will receive more, and please make the tithes come in. Okay? So we do have a problem. And the men that are here, you're from the Muslim faith, and probably from the communities that make girls marry their rapists. We need to stop that. No girl, you're not doing that girl a favor. Can you imagine if he finally gets the reward of having raped her and then he gets her as a bride? How many times do you think that poor little girl, I mean, we have marriage rape that happens in marriages. So now this marriage started with rape, and then she is wedded. What respect does that man have? First of all, he has no love for her, and then he's going to marry her, and believe you me, he's going to rape her throughout that marriage. What have you done? I would have rather she had an abortion, and she was counseled and shown that she was loved, and then she was permitted to continue with her education, to stop this vice happening to other girls. Because experience is the best teacher. And I'll tell you, in India, when India could not deal with its rape, and they were having so many problems with getting prosecutions, you know what India did? They took all the rape survivors, and they put them through law school, and they empowered them to take on the cases on the sexual gender-based violence. And now you can see India is having prosecutions and sentencing for rapists. So when you're looking at the 10 Commandments on what we can do right and wrong, let's not look at the things that we're doing wrong as women. Because after all, if a woman is raped, it's a man who raped her. If a woman has a child that the man is irresponsible and can't look after and she cannot afford, it's the man who has failed her. So when it comes to condemning the women, I just want to say that we worship a God that is a lot more merciful than the man let him be. And Jesus didn't die for the righteous. He died for the sinners. So let the word of the Lord protect the girl child and the woman. And let's end FGM in Kenya. Sadia, there's a lot of work to be done. You know, it's still happening. You know, and I remember the last case we had was in Meru, where the parents ran off. I don't know if they got arrested, but their daughter died when they were doing the female genital mutilation of the daughter. They seem to think that we don't have enough civic education. But you know something, on a final note, sex was given for both men and women to enjoy. And female genital mutilation makes the man continuously rape his wife and then go and get his pleasures from the uncircumcised women outside, because that's where he'll get the responses. Sex is a beautiful thing and should be enjoyed by both men and women. FGM has to end. Congratulations, my sister. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Next is Honorable Martha Karua. I understand she's leaving. She's going for another meeting. So shortly, Honorable Martha Karua, kindly speak to us. So unfortunately, the computer decided to start loading when we went live. So for those ones in the room, you will not see Martha Karua, Honorable Martha Karua, but those ones who are on Zoom and those ones who are live streaming, you'll be able to see her. Honorable Martha Karua, please, go ahead. Honorable Karua? Okay, just give me a minute. I think you dropped off and then... Okay, now just give me a second. You're going to come. She dropped and then when she came back, it was not on. Okay, now you can talk.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I recognize all the dignitaries present. I'm here to applaud the courage of Sadia, courage and passion as an advocate for anti-female genital mutilation. I met Sadia recently in Provo, organized by Center for Multi-Party Development, The people's
There'll be
direct
parking at
attention
dealerships
is
starting
her passion
this fall.
in the
Nothing
fight
says
against
America.
FGM.
Ford F-150.
So
I'm from
she
Texas, so
invited me
I
to
have a
this
special
lawn,
place in my
I
heart for
was
trucks. There's a reason that's the
delighted.
best-selling pickup. You know?
Everything
Habu
bigger in Texas.
That's
is
right.
about
Well, there's trucks
the
too.
struggle
It's a beautiful vehicle.
of the girl child.
So today happens to be celebrating man's
Her
best
courage
friend. It is
to share
National Take
her
Your Dog to Work Day. But like
as
many
an
other annual
FGM
events during this
survivor
pandemic, this year
is commendable.
things may be a bit
There's
different.
nothing
Here's
more
NBC's Dan
compelling
Sheneman.
than a personal
Today
story.
is Take Your
So
Dog
when
to Work Day.
Sadia
And with so
shares
many Americans still
the
working from home,
tribulations
I mean,
she
we're
has
doing a
gone through,
virtual Take Your Dog to Work day.
it will
The moment they saw me
encourage
focus,
others
they just wanted to bother me.
I just basically incorporate the dogs
and
into the
fight
meeting the best I can.
against FGM.
pets are now
Honorable
like
Pasari
co-workers.
has already
And unlike many
given
friends
an
at the
account
office,
of
they
where
often
we
get
are
us out of the
with
office.
our laws.
Whilst we were under stay-at-home restrictions,
I
often
want
getting
just
Fido
to
out for a
underscore,
walk
I
was
don't
our
want to
only form of
repeat what
physical
she has
activity. So
said,
they helped get
but to
us
say
moving.
that the
That
issue
physical
of
activity
female
is heart healthy.
genital
Experts say having a
mutilation
dog reduces the
is an
chances of
issue about
cardiovascular
gender
issues by more than
equality.
30%.
They
And
also
gender
help
equality is a
alleviate
fundamental
anxiety and
human
depression.
right.
And most
It's also
importantly, they
goal
also
number
help us
5
interact. So even
of the
now, as restrictions are
sustainable
starting to ease, they're getting
development
us out to the dog
goals.
park, talking to more people in socially
We
distant
cannot have
ways, and helping us feel less lonely.
And for all that,
Can
Dr.
you hear me?
Danielle Bernal says
Yes, we
today
can.
is
Go
the day
ahead.
to celebrate
We
with a
cannot
little
have
extra
a peaceful,
affection and a
prosperous,
little
and
fun.
sustainable
I love
world
to fill up a puzzle
if
bowl
we do
and
not
put in maybe some little extra peanut butter or some
recognize
great healthy treats, and
women
that keeps
as
them happy
equal
and it
human
taps into their
beings,
natural desire to chew.
as people who
Some
have
extra TLC
control
for that BFF.
of their destiny,
Dan
control of
Sheneman,
their
NBC
bodies.
News.
No one's going to
As
be
a
more upset
cultural
when work from home is over
practice,
than those pets
FGM
right there.
is
They've been getting a lot of love.
Now, this
It
is
inflicts
early today.
lifelong pain on women. It denies them the pleasure of
You're watching
intimacy.
NBC News Now. We've got some breaking
medically,
news.
If they do go back to their jobs, they want to make sure that they are protected.
It's news made for your streaming world.
But which gets
Live weekdays
complicated
starting at
because of
6
the
a.m. Eastern.
Female genital mutilation. This is not an easy subject to talk about.
Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, Nevada,
That's why
Texas,
I'm
the list
applauding
goes
the
on.
courage
New single-day records of coronavirus cases
Sadia in
exploding
coming up
and new
and
alerts from the
sharing
CDC
courage
about
with us.
unreported cases.
I'm very
And breaking
glad
overnight amid the pandemic, the
at the
Trump
opening of
administration
this,
asks the Supreme Court to strike down Obamacare.
The deepening divide over
There's a
masks.
shake,
More
and I
states
have
now
seen,
mandating them. And the new projections showing a
others
huge
give
number
their
of lives
speeches,
that could be
men,
saved if everyone
because
covered
we
up.
cannot win
And today
this
happens
war
to be
without
Bring Your Dog to
partnership
Work Day, but
of
with
the
so
men.
many people still working from
Remember,
home, the tradition
the
is taking on a
cultural
whole
stigma
new
of women
meaning.
not
It is
undergoing
the last
female
Friday in
genital
June,
mutilation.
early today.
They
It starts right
become
now.
socially stigmatized, and
Glad
they
you're
may
starting your
not
morning with us. I'm Francis Rivera.
And I'm Philip Mena.
suitable
The
for
pandemic
marriage.
hits a devastating new stage as COVID-19 cases spike in states that had been spared in the
for the
spring.
benefit of
At least
men,
123,000
not for their own
Americans have died from
It's
the
an
virus.
issue of
So far, 11
patriarchal,
states have seen cases spike more than
cultural
100% in the
norms
past 2
which are
weeks.
The CDC said cases in the
Let us
U.S. may
join
actually be
hands
10
and fight
times
this
higher than
practice
reported,
together.
with many
Law
not
is
showing
not enough.
symptoms. They
If law
estimate
was
20 million
enough,
Americans were infected.
For expecting mothers, the CDC is issuing a new
and more
warning
than a
after a
decade
study
has
found
passed,
that pregnant women
we
with
would have been
COVID-19
okay.
are 5 times
But
more likely to be
awareness,
hospitalized.
In Arizona, healthcare providers and labs are struggling to meet the testing
recruiting
demands.
allies,
Maricopa
and
County
especially
has
male
recorded over a
allies,
third of its
influential
cases
male
in just the
allies
past
in
week.
the community,
Half are under the age of
sheikhs,
45.
elders,
Brooks
and the
Koepka
others
and Webb Simpson are the
is the
latest
way to
golfers
go,
to pull out of the upcoming
and this is the way
Travelers
we are going
Championship.
to win the
Koepka
war.
withdrew after
And
his
speaking
caddy
out
tested
is
positive
also
for
the way to
COVID-19,
go.
and Simpson did so
I do
out of an
not
abundance
want
of
to go
caution.
beyond that.
5
I
golfers
want
have now
to
withdrawn.
Once again,
And a new poll by the
congratulate
Associated
Sadia.
Press shows Americans
Wish her
never
well
really supported the reopening
and
measures.
encourage
They found
each one of
50%
us
still
to do what
favor
we can
stay-at-home
do
orders.
to achieve
68% are
gender
worried they
equality
or a family member
and
will become
to
infected,
ensure
including
that we
32% who say they are extremely
harmful
worried. Our
practices
Sam Brock is in Houston, where reopening
women,
plans are now on hold.
and
Sam,
that
good
we
morning.
discourage use of culture.
Francis, good morning.
As a means
Texas nearly topped
of
6,000
subjugating
cases
women.
in a single day,
Culture is
far
dynamic,
surpassing its previous high.
and
The
the
enormous
men
spike in
have also
cases
left
and
the
infection
cultural
rates
way of life.
affecting the health
That's
and the
why
businesses
instead
of the
of
people
being
living
in
here.
the farms
Only a few
and
months
having
ago, Ken
cattle,
Bridge was
they are
celebrating
now
the opening
doing
of his
different
restaurant.
jobs.
Now,
Why
after
would we
2
hold
chefs
on to
contracted
harmful
coronavirus, he's had to
cultural
shut down.
practices
It was a
in the
no-brainer
name of
right away. I mean,
culture?
there was no decision, but it was a tough decision.
Working together
Absolutely.
in partnership
working on this project for almost 3 years.
The Texas governor pausing the state's reopening and suspending elective surgeries at hospitals in 4 heavily impacted counties, including the Houston area perhaps the
because I
epicenter
have
of the
to go.
crisis. With reports, hospitals
I
here are
felt
approaching
that this was so
100%
important.
ICU bed
I needed to
capacity,
come in
though hospital
and
CEOs
have
insist
my
they
voice
regularly
heard
work around that
and
capacity
identify
and
myself
can do
with the
so
cause.
again.
We're
Thank you,
concerned
and
that
God
there is a level of alarm in the community that is unwarranted right now because we do have the capacity to care for many more patients.
We asked Houston's
Thank you
mayor.
so much, Honorable Karua, for joining us. I think the
situation is bad. We're in the midst of a healthcare crisis.
So,
Doctors are
we
most
do
concerned
hear-
about the
thank you so
surge in
much,
cases among the
and
young,
those of
most
us
of
who
whom
are
won't
here
get seriously
really do
ill,
appreciate you
but can pass the
joining
virus
in.
on to those who
So,
could.
for
Some
the
of them are
next
super
session,
spreaders because they're bringing
we
that
are going
infection
to-
back into their house, back when they
to go
visit their
to a panel
grandparents, when they see their
discussion
parents, when they
of
meet
some
with
sort.
other
And
individuals.
Honorable Karua has
Infection
already
rates in
spoken
Houston
on the
have
topic
risen
that
sharply in recent
chose to
days,
speak
as
on.
has the hefty
So
toll
we are going
of
to
this
discuss
outbreak.
I think about my staff every
what
day.
the
We're all
cultural
dependent on
struggle
one
of an
another, so
African girl.
we stick together. It's
And
like
in the
one tight
panel,
family.
Even with ICU beds now basically at capacity here in the Houston area,
and in the
most of the
panel,
people
we
occupying
have
them do not
a
have
number of
COVID-19.
very important
72%.
people.
Fewer than 30%
So I'm going
actually
to
do.
quickly
Doctors right now telling people who have
go through
urgent medical
and
needs
introduce them.
to still come to the hospital for treatment.
Yvette Kadurima,
Francis, back to you.
she
All right,
is
Sam,
the-
thank you.
Doctors and healthcare officials
She
say
is
wearing a
she's
mask
the head
combined
of-
with social
of,
distancing can help slow the
Girls Not
spread of
Right in
COVID-19.
Africa.
A new
And
model
then we
predicts
have-
masks could save
we have
33,000
Bernadette
lives.
Loloju,
As coronavirus
the
cases
CEO
spike in the
of,
U.S., some states and
anti-FGM
communities
board.
are now
And then
mandating
we have
masks be
Naima
worn in
Hassan,
public.
who is the
But those
CEO of
mandates
the
have been met
Global
with strong
Media
resistance.
of
NBC's Tom
FGM.
Costello has
And
more.
then we have let me just-
Across these United States, just wearing a face mask is as polarizing as the nation's political divide.
This is a pandemic. This is totally political, and you know it.
After Washington's governor ordered everyone to wear a mask, a local sheriff had different advice.
Don't be a sheep.
In
way
Arizona,
behind time. 30 minutes on what are the struggles of being being a girl in Africa. So I will ask my panelists to kindly switch on their cameras because there are people who are watching you globally, I understand, and they would want to see your faces. Please kindly, Yvette, Benedict, Neymar, Catherine. Where is Catherine? She left again. Catherine, oh, I think she's dropped off again. So we are trying to connect for the guys who are here to see the people online. So we apologize, the computer we are using decided to go off, and that's why we're having issues with the sound at some point for those ones who couldn't hear. So we are going to, oh, you are there. Sorry. Oh, yeah, we have someone physically here. So those ones who are watching on YouTube are the ones who are advantage because they can see everyone. So those ones who are on Zoom, we apologize. I'll try to link to YouTube.
Myself, protect our community.
If you're not wearing your mask, you're just thinking about yourself.
despite the divide, the fact that so many people have been wearing masks seems to have made a difference. By one estimate, preventing 450,000 additional cases so far.
Our thanks to Tom Costello for that report.
There are new calls for justice this morning as police officers face more scrutiny after the death of George Floyd, with new calls to investigate controversial encounters, including the August 2019 death of 23-year-old Elijah McClain in Colorado. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez joins us with the latest.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Francis, in the wake of George Floyd's death, there is now mounting scrutiny of police officers across the country.
I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious.
There's growing outrage over this body camera video from last August, where officers in Aurora, Colorado stopped 23-year-old Elijah McClain.
No, I am an introvert. Please respect the boundaries that
for launching of the book and also being
McClain later
very
died after being placed in a chokehold. An internal investigation found the officers followed policy, but now more
as
than
an African girl born and brought up in a Maasai community,
3 million people have signed an online petition.
From
The
our
governor's office says it will re-examine the case.
Do you think that there would be
renewed interest in this case if not for the death of George Floyd?
Like
The George Floyd case made it apparent that it was going to keep continuing. It wasn't going to stop.
Here in New York, an officer was arrested on strangulation charges after video surfaced last weekend.
Yo, stop talking to bro.
Authorities now say he used a banned chokehold on a suspect. The officer pleaded not guilty. In Miami Gardens, Florida, a former officer was charged with official misconduct and battery after video showed him pressing his knee on a woman's neck in January. In the arrest report, the officer had said the woman refused to get out of the car and began striking him.
We are all here today to correct what we all see as an injustice.
In Wilmington, North Carolina, 3 officers have been fired after a vehicle's camera recorded the men using racist language toward African Americans. After the recent nationwide protests began, according to the transcripts, one of the officers warned a civil war was coming and said, "We are going to go out and start slaughtering them," and then use the N-word.
There is no place for this behavior in our agency or our city, and it will not be tolerated.
More incidents now coming to light as officers face mounting scrutiny. Here in New York, the attorney for the officer involved says that his client has pleaded not guilty and that it appears prosecutors have succumbed to political pressure. Francis?
All right, Gabe, thank you. You can see more of Gabe's interview with Elijah McClain's mother later on today.
A battle brewing on Capitol Hill over law enforcement reform. The House passed a sweeping police reform bill overnight named after George Floyd. But that vote may be the end of the road for the legislation. Our Capitol Hill correspondent Tracy Potts has more. Tracy, good morning. So Senate Republicans, they've vowed to block the
it looks like they're going to be in a stalemate between the House and the Senate. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell already saying that what passed last night goes too far, while Democrats say what his side was pushing didn't go far enough. The act that passed last night, at least on the House side, is called the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. It actually bans chokeholds like the one that was used on Floyd and no-knock warrants that led to the death of Breonna Taylor in Kentucky. This was pushed and passed mostly by Democrats.
I'm going to be frank. A bill like this should have passed years ago. We know that chokeholds are dangerous, the same with no-knock warrants and nonviolent federal cases. This legislation would have prevented George Floyd's death and the death of so many other black and brown people in America.
And President Trump ramping up his rhetoric against protesters, comparing them to terrorists and promising harsh punishment.
Every night we're going to get tougher and tougher. And at some point, there's going to be retribution because there has to be. These people are vandals, but they're agitators, but they're terrorists in a sense.
And now the president's promising to issue an executive order to protect these statues and monuments. Philip?
All right, Tracy Potts for us this morning. Tracy, thank you.
Breaking news this morning, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to strike down Obamacare amid a pandemic and a recession. The administration filed a brief late last night. If justices agree with the argument, it would cost an estimated 20 million Americans their insurance coverage and nullify protections for pre-existing conditions. The filing came one day after the nation hit a new record for the highest daily total of new coronavirus infections.
The scientists have discovered a nearby solar system that they say could potentially harbor life. Researchers say they've located a star with 3 super-Earths. That's according to a new study in the journal Science. The 3 planets are located in the star's habitable zone, but we won't be traveling there anytime soon. The scientists say nearby, in quotes, that means that it is still 64 trillion miles away. Trying to wrap your head around that.
3 other Earths. Okay, let's go to check with our weekend weather with NBC meteorologist Janessa Webb. Janessa, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you. Good morning, everyone. We're tracking some severe weather, unfortunately, for Chicago and the Great Lakes this afternoon into your evening. Right now, they're developing across the Dakotas. A little bit of lightning and thunder currently happening. Now, this has been expanded across this area. Now, 43 million going to be impacted by the severe weather with damaging wind gusts. The primary threat will rule out a few tornadoes possible throughout your day, and the hail could be a very big issue with up to 2 inches. Let's look at the big weather story of the day. Here's a closer look at your day.
Who has not gone through FGM.
So Salt Lake City, not a cloud in the sky this afternoon. You're waking up to a little bit of cloud coverage, but daytime highs are still in the upper 80s. Need to get to Jacksonville, Florida if you're liking the heat. It's building to 96 degrees with humidity building across the Mid-Atlantic.
Okay, Neymar. Okay, Neymar is back.
And still watching that dust storm that has now traveled 5,000 miles,
I had
where
asked
it will be
you a
impacting the
question
state of
about
Man,
cultural
that thing just will
FGM and
not
the
quit.
culture and being a girl
Jennifer,
in
thanks.
Africa.
In today's Quick Hits, Facebook announced it'll show users a pop-up warning before they share an outdated story that's over 90 days old. The company said old stories shared out of their original context play a role in spreading misinformation.
Has come aboard Universal's The Magic School Bus live-action movie adaptation. The actress will star as the adventurous science teacher, Miss Frizzle.
The BET Awards kick off Sunday night with its first-ever virtual ceremony hosted by Amanda Seals. This year's show marks the 20th anniversary of the awards and BET's 40th anniversary.
I'm a diaspora. I'm based in London. I grew up in London.
Article 53 of the 2010 Kenyan Constitution recognizes the need for all children to be protected from harmful cultural practices such as female genital mutilation, which is denying children the right to education and well-being. Sadia Hussein, an FGM rights activist, addresses this issue in her book, The Hidden Scars of FGM.
Even within the Somali community, of different people or young girls who live in, who are Somali, who are also maybe disadvantaged because there is a preference for boys in that sense. But I mean, I'm the oldest in my family, if you want me to go, if I want to give personal experience, but I haven't undergone FGM. However, you know, in terms of just generally, culturally, there is an expectation of me to be like, I think the CEO of Anti-FGM Board was speaking about, you know, being able to, you know, cooking and cleaning, and at the same time, you know, prioritizing your studies and all of those things. Those chores were not equally divided with my brothers, for instance. I still had to parent my siblings as well as excel in school, as well as all of that. So I just wanted to give another nuance, another perspective that that it's also, obviously it's challenging. There are various challenges that African women face, and but I think the narratives need to be explored widely, and there isn't just the one particular African child experience or story, and various different stories need to be told.
Thank you so much, Naima. And Catherine is back. Oh, she dropped off again. Oh, she's gone again. Oh, she's here. Hi, Catherine. So yeah, can you give us experience as someone who lives in a community where FGM, child marriage are part of a girl's culture? What are the cultural challenges of being an African girl in communities, and what are those expectations? Catherine?
Okay, can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to really congratulate Sadia for the launch of her book and for really coming out on behalf of the survivors and share her story. On behalf of the Youth Anti-FGM Network, of which I double as the chairperson, we really congratulate her. So on the question that you've asked, I come from the Maasai community. And one thing the Maasais believe is that for a girl to go through FGM, it is like a transition stage for you, moving from being a child to a woman. And if you haven't gone through FGM, one thing in terms of decision making, you cannot be part of that. For them, they believe you're still a child, you cannot sit down. And for we Maasais, they believe that women are still children. And it's very difficult, especially when sitting among your peers and you know you've not gone through the cut. Some of them will be like stigmatizing you, like they don't want to be associated with you who's still a child, you're not a grown-up. So it's becoming a challenge. And even some of the challenge that we face is that opportunities, like for we women, we're not given opportunities. Most boys are given opportunities. I remember for instance, personally, I remember when I wanted to go to a school, my brother was given most of the priorities. I'll even be told, you can stay at home first, you take your brother to school, let him study first, and then you will join in later. Even I remember there's a time I actually wanted to be I got an opportunity to be nominated as an MCA, but the mere fact I'm still a young woman, they believe that she's not yet married, she doesn't have a family, she cannot take responsibility. So like there's some of the perception, and I was denied the opportunity just because I was a young girl. So some of the challenges we face is, I mean, our cultures are really demeaning women, and it's we women to come out really and stand up for ourselves and really make it understood that we are also equal as the same way men are, and also opportunities for us are the same for them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. You go ahead, but now you'll need to go there because of the microphone. So some of our panelists are physical, so there's those ones are online and those ones are physical. And she's going to, as someone who comes from the culture where girls, growing up as a girl is a struggle, as Sadia put it in her book. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Actually, very happy to be here today. And on behalf of Sadia, I'm also an FGM survivor. Sadia's story is very common, and some of us might have even gone through a worse experience than her. So first of all, let me congratulate Sadia for the courage in speaking up. Being able to do, Sadia has been doing a very commendable work in terms of going to grassroots, house to house, talking about FGM. That is something some of us were not able to do, but I really commend her for all that. It's actually very important for all of us to talk about our stories, or to tell our stories of trauma, of what we've gone through. And Sadia gave us, a very good, she wrote a book about her story. It's powerful. We all need to go through. We all need to do that. Personally, someone from a cutting community, I actually have gone through FGM twice. So you might not, maybe she has gone through once, but I have gone through it twice. This was because, and it was done kind of immediately. I will try to narrate a little bit of my story just to tell people how this is horror. So I was about 6-7 years, I think, and many people will tell you, how do you even remember something that happened to you when you were just 7 years old? I guess some of these traumas cannot be easily forgotten. I still remember that morning and how it happened and everything. So it was that one morning you are told you're going through, and it's said in a very nice way when they say it in Somali. Well, like it's not like, and I'm trying to find a word in Somali that actually speaks or depicts the female genital mutilation word, which I'm yet to find. So they said in a very nice way. So we prepared myself with other girls, being happy, going to shower and preparing myself, only to find that there was razor involved, there was cutting involved, there was no anesthesia, there was nothing, and the pain was horrible. And then 7 days later, the old woman comes to inspect if everything is now like the place came out together, only to find that, it's not yet stitched together. So I had to go through another round of FGM for the second time. And this time, knowing full well what the pain was, I think there were 7 women who could not contain me that day. One had to tie one of my legs to a tree, the other leg was tied on a tree, some were sitting on my chest at 7 years, you can imagine. If I didn't break some of my ribs, I don't even know how. But I remember so many women holding me. And this time, because initially it was just cutting and putting it together, this time they had to take thorns and they had to put thorns there. So I cannot even describe what happened later, the pain, not being able to, pass stool or pass urine, the horror of passing urine. And later actually, when I was in school, I developed some pain, abdominal pain and all that, and it was definitely it was because of FGM, but I didn't even have a mentor. I didn't even have someone to speak to. So the whole of my high school, I lived in pain. Until one morning, I had this color-colored urine and had to rush to hospital, and I was told, because of the infections and all that, one of my kidneys is getting terribly bad. So imagine being in pain, not being able to talk to anybody, not being able to open yourself up so that you are able to be normal. So this is now, that's why I was saying Sadia's story is too familiar for all of us. So apart from FGM, there's child marriage, there's all this wanting to control you, sexually and in every way in life. And so basically, it's important for all of us to talk about our stories. It's really important for all of us to have passion to end FGM. I work in Somalia right now, and recent data, actually 2019 data shows FGM is still at 99. So sometimes you sit down and break and you say, is this nightmare going to end? What can I do to end this? So I think we need to have that passion like Sadia. As I said earlier, Sadia is very passionate about all this. We need to raise our voices as loud as we can. And I know it's hard. People will troll you on social media. Some of us were already called, they speak because they're getting donor funding and all that. So some of us have that label, which is horrible, which is far from the truth. We know that FGM is harmful practice. We need to stop. We need to stop doing harm to girls. But I guess we need to keep on talking. We need to keep on putting more efforts. Thank you. I don't know if you have any other questions. We need to stop.
Thank you so much. Sorry guys, the live stream was a bit late, it is delayed, but she has finished talking. So for me, you're still there, and this is a question that is going to go on to all of us because we have like 5 minutes to finish this session. So my question is, we have 2 decision makers on that, actually 3, okay, 4. Everybody on that table is a decision maker. So what are the 2 key things that you do want them to do for us, to ensure that as the president of Kenya committed 2022, okay, what can we do to end FGM by 2022?
I think so maybe as a parliamentarian, I will maybe we will need, the laws are there, but we really need enforcement. We really need enforcement, and especially we need efforts by both national, county government, grassroots communities. We really need efforts to be made. We need arrests to be made because we know that FGM is happening right now as we speak. Maybe right now as we are speaking, a girl is being cut in northeastern Kenya. So we really need the laws to be enforced. And maybe to the Ambassador of Australia is to also look at these issues from a donor perspective, from your own lobbying. We already have the highest political will. The President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, already committed, but we really need to make sure that enforcement is done and efforts are made towards that. And to the religious leaders who are here, we want them to break their silence. And where I work in Somalia, we are unable to get religious leaders to even say stop FGM. Zero tolerance to FGM. Most of the religious leaders shy away from this. But we really need the religious leaders to come out strongly, and I want to thank the Sheikh because I saw him, I was in 2018, I saw him on TV, I saw him saying zero tolerance to FGM. We need that more. We need more religious leaders speaking about this. I want to thank the Sheikh because I saw him, I was in 2018, I saw him on TV, I saw him saying zero tolerance to FGM. We need that more. We need more religious leaders speaking about this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I will ask you. Rest of our panelists. So I will start with Neema. Actually, we'll start Catherine and then Neema and then Yvette and then because Lola Ju is a decision maker, and we have a number of high commissioners and ambassadors on this call. I can see them, and probably I'll give them 1 minute each to speak later. So starting with Catherine, Neymar, what are those two things? Lola Ju is taking notes. We have the CEO of NCCS, we have a board member of the anti-FGM board, we have the ambassador, and we have a member of parliament on this panel. So what is those two things that you'd want them to do?
Thank you for that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Perfect. I just want to first of all start by saying congratulations to Sadia. I didn't say that originally because, and I just want to firstly say that I met Sadia in 2017 in Kapenguria at a media training that we've organised. Sadia didn't have any ideas of how to use media before this training, but we can sense her incredible energy, her creativity and willingness to learn. And from this day on, we witnessed her go from strength to strength. And I'm going to get to your answer. So I just needed to say that. Witnessing her burning desire to serve her community and protecting girls from FGM, we've supported her with media training and media grants, where she was able to convince religious leaders and religious scholars particularly to speak out against FGM on the media, and for their messages to be consistently broadcast in all media outlets, especially in her local community in Holla, Tana River. So in recent impact measurement study that we've conducted on the power of media, it showed that up to 80% of the community had a form of an attitudinal shift towards FGM, some even thinking that it's no longer necessary. So I think this is an incredible achievement, and it's possible, it wouldn't be possible without us all working together collectively. So, and also obviously without Sadia's passionate, relentless, visionary work and campaigners like hers alike, as well as obviously the anti-FGM board and all other decision leaders. My point here is media really is the quickest way to really reach a large proportion of population with the right messaging and the right messengers, such as religious leaders, such as law enforcers, and really holding people to account and making it. And obviously in Kenya Kenya has made a long, strides and efforts towards ending FGM, and it has been leading the fight and an example worldwide. However, more needs to be done in communities like Holla, in communities like Tana River, where FGM is still prevalence remains very high. And the way to do that is, first of all, retraining religious leaders and getting them to get confident to speak out against FGM. They need to have the right information to be able to say and to speak to the wider population who really genuinely believe that FGM is a religious practice, that it isn't a religious practice, and it isn't, and it predates all religions, and it shouldn't be practiced for religious purposes. So I guess first of all, my two answers really: educating religious leaders to take on the fight, giving them the more confidence and the information that they need, and secondly, supporting them with media, granting or support so that it reaches the wider population. I stop there, and congratulations again, Sadia. Really proud of you.
Thank you so much, Naima. Catherine, what are those two things? We have people watching now. At least our projector is back. Catherine, what are your two things that you'd want to tell decision makers right now?
Okay, thank you. One of the things that I would want to say is that His Excellency the President made a commitment by 2022, we shouldn't be talking of FGM, we should have entered FGM. So we have a board that is mandated, the anti-FGM board that is mandated in ensuring that we end FGM by 2022. There are acts in place, we have a policy. But one of the things that is coming out is that the resources that they are being allocated are very little. They cannot be able to reach in all the counties. One of the, I would like to ask the parliamentarians present there is that as they look into the budget, they should increase the anti-FGM board budget. Secondly, is to have a multi-sectoral approach whereby we bring everybody on board to really fight these, to really end this, fight the FGM. And finally, that I said I'm the chairperson for the Youth Anti-FGM Network, which is a network of young people across the country. And as we know, 75% of the population of Kenya is the youth. So I'd like to ask the decision makers to make sure as they come up with boards, committees, they make sure we have inclusion of young people there. They are the generation that will end FGM. Since they are the generation that will end FGM, and as long as we don't have them in decision making, then there's nothing we are seeing. So those are my 3 key points. Thank you.
Yvette?
Thank you, Jenny. So previous speakers have talked about the enabling environment we have in Kenya in terms of the laws and the policies, but we do know that laws alone will not end the practice. A previous speaker has talked about FGM still being at 99%, even in our current phase. So we need to recognize that, especially when laws become punitive, particularly to those who are surviving some of these practices, there needs to be a rethink of what we do. And that's the current context we're facing in Kenya, where we know girls who've already undergone the cut are also being imprisoned. So we really need to revise how our laws are being implemented. Secondly would be how we empower the girls, because we are talking about FGM, child marriage, beading, and other harmful practices being conducted within the girl's body. This is a site of violence. So how are we working with other sectors, education and others, to really empower the girl, for her to know her options in life, for her to know these are not religious practices, these have not been enforced by religion, but are cultural practices. And we know the one thing about culture is it can change. So through different generations, I come from a community that used to practice and in some pockets still practices FGM. We do know that change has happened, and a lot has been brought about by increased awareness from the girls themselves to actually call against the cut. So empower girls, increase education budgets, increase the amounts of budgets that are going towards bodies that are fighting for an end to these practices. And at the end of the day, ensure that all initiatives have the support of the community, because this is where the cut and other harmful practices happen. So they need to be community-driven initiatives where the community themselves set their agenda and are able to be informed, they are able to be resourced, and at the end of the day, we can document the impact all these initiatives would have had in our communities.
Thank you so much. It will not be fair for this particular conversation if we do not make apart from the ambassador, but the rest of the leaders on this conversation to make a commitment. I will start with the NCCS. Okay, he's left. Okay, I will start with Loleju, the CEO. What is the commitment of the anti-FGM board in ending FGM, as the president said, by 2022? Loleju?
You can hear me?
Yes,
yeah, my network is not very stable because I'm using my phone network.
I think we have lost her.
And so people are calling in. Just as can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
With the president's committee.
We've lost her. For those ones who are watching, we are going to project a
commitment to end FGM by 2028.
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, Loleju, we are losing you. I'm saying we are losing you.
There are so many calls coming through and I'm using my phone network. So let me.
Okay. So it is okay. So we are.
Let me just hurry up through it. With the president's commitment to end FGM, the whole government machinery is on. We are working day and night to make sure that our girls are safe. But I can say one thing, FGM will end when the communities themselves make a decision to end it once and for all. And that is on board and become like what Sadia has done today. Mothers and survivors have to take the front seat because there's no woman who has not gone through FGM who will take her daughter through FGM. It's only survivors who take their daughters through FGM. And so the community has to own the process. We have to work with the elders. We have to work with the religious leaders. We have to work with the mothers, which we are already doing, but we need to be more like, we have to continue pushing for it. But as it has been said, the anti-FGM board alone cannot do it. We have to do a multisectoral. We have to work together. The NGOs, the mothers, the fathers, everyone has to come on board for us to end FGM in Kenya. But I'm very grateful for everybody in this country because people are taking it upon themselves to really push for the end of FGM. In fact, in the whole of Africa, I think Kenya is leading in terms of the FGM campaigns and really putting together our house to make sure we end it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lola Ju. So we have a video that we want to play. The full documentary will be available in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But for now, we have something small that we want all of us to enjoy. I'm hoping the guys across the platforms you can be able to see.
The 2010 Kenyan Constitution recognizes the need for all children to be protected from harmful cultural practices such as female genital mutilation, which is denying children the right to education and well-being. Sadia Hussein, an FGM rights activist, addresses this issue in her book, The Hidden Scars of FGM.
My personal story began when I was 10 years old. I was cut at the age of 10. I couldn't bear the pain. There is no anesthesia, no painkillers, nothing like that. So I was like, but why didn't my mom tell me that it was this horrible? Maybe I would have made a choice not to go through this. Is this what I wanted? But they have deceived me. This is cheating. They should have told me that it's this painful, and I would have made a choice. So communities practicing FGM believe that cutting girls' genitalia promotes hygiene. Whereas the fact is that FGM has countless health effects, including bleeding and infections. It can't promote cleanliness. What made me now write the book is because even the title itself explains a lot. The hidden scars of female genital mutilation. What if these hidden scars were visible on the face? Imagine 200 million women and girls, for instance, walking without their lips or noses. What would it be? It would be a national disaster or an international crisis. That's why I said, because FGM happens to the hidden genitalia, no one thinks it's a big issue. But if the scars were exposed, it would be something that is a priority with everyone.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy. So our next speaker is, let me read this so I don't misspell the name. Ambassador Alison Chatres, right? That's fine? Okay. She's going to speak to us about the global efforts and the national efforts and how, as a global community, they are supporting ending FGM. Welcome, Ambassador.
All distinguished panelists here and online, and all friends joining us here and online as well. It's a great pleasure to be here this afternoon. Good afternoon, habari zenu. Thank you very much, Sadia, for the invitation to deliver the keynote on this very important occasion. May I also start by acknowledging that there are, of course, many other High Commissioners and Ambassadors to Kenya who are deeply committed to supporting efforts to end female genital mutilation and all forms of gender-based violence here and across the world. And so I want to also acknowledge the work also of my colleagues in the Diplomatic Corps. And I want to particularly mention a few colleagues who could not be here in person today, but who were with me when we met up with Sadia earlier this year at the Australian High Commission at my office and discussed her book and the launch event. Her Excellency Lisa Stadelbauer, the High Commissioner of Canada to Kenya, who I know has been online with us this afternoon, His Excellency Simon Mordu, the Ambassador of the European Union to Kenya, and His Excellency Christian Fellner, the Ambassador of Austria to Kenya, who I know has also been online this afternoon and who is also acknowledged in Sadia's book for his ongoing and very strong support. I know when we sat down with you, Sadia, those few months ago in my office, it was in the relatively early days of COVID-19 cases in Kenya and indeed globally. We were excited about your book. But we discussed the challenge of launching a book at the time when gatherings were restricted, and of course still are. We're very proud of you and your bold determination to proceed with the launch today. We've all had to embrace new ways of doing things and the use of technology like never before. So congratulations to everyone who has made this launch a reality today. It's an important reminder that all things are possible and that nothing should stand in our way of bringing attention to vital issues. We can't waste time worrying about what can't be done, but focus on what can and must be done, particularly when it comes to the rights of women and girls. Of course, I shouldn't have been surprised at all, Sadia, that you would find a way to make this day happen. I first met Sadia at the Belgian Ambassador's residence in November 2018 at the Human Rights Defenders Awards here in Kenya. It was clear to me from my first meeting with you, Sadia, that you were a person with a clear determination. You had a story that needed to be heard. And most importantly, I know you wanted your story, your lived experience, and those of other FGM survivors, some of whom we've heard from this afternoon as well, to bring positive change for others, to ensure that no young girl or young woman has to endure FGM and all of its lifelong scars. And it was a time when I also met staunch allies of Sadia in this work, including Tony Mwebia and later Kiponoi, young men who are energetic and dedicated advocates to end FGM and change the attitudes and behaviours of fathers, husbands, boyfriends. For women and girls who have survived female genital mutilation, I can't even try to imagine how hard it must be to relive the personal experiences time and time again, especially to those of us who have not lived the reality of FGM. I want to thank you, Sadia, for being willing to share your story in so many different discussions and conversations. And now through your new book, The Hidden Scars of FGM, The Cultural Struggle of the Girl Child. We all need to be talking about the horror of FGM. But most importantly, we need the conversation to be about ending it everywhere in the world, forever. Today is another vital opportunity to shine the spotlight on this terrible practice and to continue the conversation about what is happening here in Kenya and how to stop it. It's clear that Kenya has taken very important steps, and we've heard about some of those already this afternoon, including through legislation and the firm commitment of the Kenyan President that FGM in Kenya must be eliminated by 2022. This leadership sends a very clear message that the practice of FGM has no place in any community in this beautiful country and any community across this wonderful region. However, with about 21% of women having undergone FGM in Kenya, this is a practice that, together with all forms of gender-based violence, remains one of the major threats facing women and girls in Kenya today. The fight against FGM has been one fraught with success and failure, resistance and acceptance. While criminalising FGM has gone a long way in combating this vice, FGM is now increasingly conducted underground, secretly in homes and in clinics. The commitment to eliminate FGM therefore must permeate all parts of the community, all levels of government, community, all faiths. It must be embraced, the elimination must be embraced by leaders in all spheres of life, political leaders, community leaders, faith leaders, leaders in the health sector, teachers, editors, journalists. All have a role to play to educate and advocate. Without a doubt, Kenya has a major challenge leading up to 2022, but with the right will, commitment and leadership, the country can do it. At this point, I also want to express my gratitude to members of our Kenya-Australia Alumni Association. We maintain close connections with those who have studied in Australia, and our alumni associations in Kenya, Tanzania, and other countries of the region and the world are incredibly energetic. I've been proud to join our alumni in outreach to schools and communities in Machakos and Kajiado counties, activities that have been empowering girls with information on FGM, child marriage and menstrual hygiene, together with essential supplies. They've been working in other counties as well, including Kisii, where the outreach is also so vital. Of course, we come together to ensure ongoing action to end FGM. But as we all know, we are living through an extremely challenging and difficult time. Challenging because of the threats presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 has and continues to take a terrible role on physical and mental health in every corner of the world, but it's also having terrible socio-economic impacts. We're aware of the rising unemployment and detrimental impact on livelihoods here in Kenya, as in other countries in the world. And we're also learning more about the impact of the pandemic on basic human rights, including on the safety of women and children. COVID-19's impacts have been most severe and will continue to be most severe for the poorest and most vulnerable. I know data for Kenya has highlighted the dreadful reality of massive increases in gender-based violence. The National Gender Helpline recorded an exponential rise in calls between February and May this year. Data indicates over 700% increase in calls to the helpline in this period. And we know that the data for Kenya, as it is for many of our countries, is not reflective of the true reality of the situation. The reality is that across the world, gender-based violence is much, much higher than the data indicates. So many cases go unreported. Violence is hidden. Many survivors remain quiet, afraid of letting others know, for fear of stigmatisation, fear of family reaction, fear of what will happen with that information, fear of reprisals and repeat attacks. Isn't it ironic? Women and girls don't feel they can speak out because of a fear of the consequences to them and their families, as if the violence is not enough for them to deal with. We also know that with schools closed, children are out of school. This has put girls at far greater risk of violence, including FGM, and more vulnerable to the violation of their fundamental rights. Child marriage, for instance, is undoubtedly increasing, including as a result of families feeling increased economic pressure. But of course, Kenya is not alone when it comes to increases in violence against women and girls. This is something we all need to be concerned about, wherever we are from and wherever we live in the world. Let me briefly reflect on some of the issues in my own country of Australia to emphasise that violence against women and children is a global issue. Typically in Australia, police deal with domestic violence incidents on average every 2 minutes. 5,000 matters on average every week across my country, and over 264,000 cases per year. We have had to do a lot of deep soul searching in Australia and acknowledge the reality that domestic violence is a national crisis. It is a national health and welfare issue. 2.2 million Australians from our population of 25 million have experienced physical or sexual violence from a current or previous partner. In fact, Australia's Minister for Women, also Australia's Foreign Minister, Senator the Honourable Marise Payne, and Australia's Minister for Families and Social Services, the Honourable Anne Ruston, at the end of May, just recently, proposed draft terms of reference for a parliamentary inquiry into family, domestic and sexual violence in Australia. The ministers have asked the parliamentary inquiry to report on a range of issues, including the measures to prevent violence against women and their children and advance gender equality, lessons from international experience, the coordination and accountability for services and policy responses across all levels of government, how health, housing and economic independence of women affects their ability to escape domestic violence, data, changing men's behaviour, the experiences of all women, whatever their background, and of course the impact of COVID-19 and how staying at home in these current circumstances impacts the prevalence of domestic violence and support services. I raise these points on my own country, Australia, to emphasise that no one community or country is alone in this fight against violence. And COVID-19 has certainly highlighted that home is not the safe place it should be for women and children. It's incredible to believe that we're still facing this reality in 2020. It is 25 years since the World Conference on Women and the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which heralded a key milestone in commitments to women's rights, empowerment and gender equality. And let us also recall the world's commitment to the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Sustainable Development Goals, including, of course, Goal 5, to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. But the rights of women and girls continue to be violated. The 2019 review of SDG 5 showed some good progress, which we of course must welcome, but also so much work that still needs to be done. Child marriage in sub-Saharan Africa has declined, but only at a very modest rate. We know at least 200 million girls and women in the world have been subjected to female genital mutilation based on data from 30 countries. Declines may have been recorded, but the pace of decline, according to UN sources, is uneven and progress is not universal, and data is hard to get. We must remember that women's rights are human rights, children's rights are human rights. The rights of people with disability are human rights. They must be assured of protection, respect and support. Women with disability face significant and disproportionate challenges, facing even greater risks of gender-based violence, stigma and discrimination. And at times of crisis or emergency, there is an even greater urgency for the rights of the most vulnerable and marginalised to be protected and upheld. We cannot let the current crisis be a reason or a cause for setback on human rights. Indeed, more than ever, we need strong voices to protect and advance human rights, voices like Sadia's. Sadia, your courage, your determination, your commitment to protect the rights of girls, to empower them and to end FGM once and for all is unwavering and an inspiration to all of us. I know the best thing now that we can do is to redouble our efforts to get information out. And your book, The Hidden Scars of Female Genital Mutilation, is another really important and excellent way to do this. I'm conscious that you've not asked me to do a book review. However, let me take this opportunity to say how much I value how you have managed to explain the very fundamental aspects of FGM. For those of us who were previously ignorant about many of the details of FGM, the types of cut, and the excuses that are often given by those who perpetrate this crime on girls and young women, I want to thank you for informing and educating us. You have taken such a challenging topic and given people like myself greater understanding and clarity. That is a very powerful gift. You leave the reader without any doubt that this practice leaves so many physical, mental, emotional scars for girls and women that they will live with for the rest of their lives. No one can be untouched by your clear messages, and of course those by others that we've heard from today. You are a mother and a protector of all girls. So let me end my comments with a few final messages. We don't yet have answers to some of the challenges in the world today. The current pandemic has certainly highlighted that. But we do have the answer to child marriage and female genital mutilation. We know these practices are just clearly wrong, and we know what has to be done. We don't need to wait for a medical or a scientific breakthrough to end this. We have the solution, and it is in our voices and our actions. It is in our power to bring change to end FGM. Thanks to Sadia and our other survivors of FGM, we have the knowledge and information. Each one of us has to be a voice and to advocate for positive change. Young girls must not live in fear of being judged by whether they have been cut or not, but live freely in a society where they are judged by the content of their character and their service to community. Let's help ensure Sadia's story and those of thousands and thousands of other young women and girls is heard, so that everyone, everywhere, is convinced that FGM must end and end forever. Thank you.
For that, we really do, thank you for those very important words. You know, I had a conversation with Sadia, is it on Saturday, and she said some things that for me are very important. Like, for example, why should a girl's decision be a community's responsibility? You know, and today morning she said if FGM scars were on someone's face, it will be a national disaster, okay? Something will be taken seriously. It's because the scars are not on the face, they cannot be seen. And on that note, I'm going to invite Sadia to come and talk about the book. Let's all of us, all the 50 of us in here, let's clap our hands. Let's all clap our hands. Sadia gives us like what was her motivation in writing this book. Some of us have listened to her and we can't even stop listening to her. We always listen to her. Everybody, let's all welcome Sadia.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and for actually believing in me. Actually, I thought launching online is difficult. I'm not a digital person, but Jennifer actually built my confidence and told me during COVID and public gatherings are not allowed, and since the book has contents that we all need, we really need to launch it so that people can at least understand what are the contents of the book. So thank you so much. Thank you the panelists, Ambassador for Australia, to Kenya, and the former deputy chief Qadi of Kenya, who is now the board of director for the anti-FGM board, representing the board, Fatuma. You say today you don't want to wear the hat of UNFPA, but as a person and a sister, thank you so much. And the CEO for National Council for Children's Services, Abdennour, thank you so much. Honorable Esther Passaris, for honoring my invitation and again congratulating me. Thank you so much, Mtoto News, actually, for supporting me, and the rest who have joined the media, thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone and the panelists, Honorable Mother Karua, Naima Hassan of Global Media, Yvette of Girls Not Brides, the CEO anti-FGM board, Catherine for Youth Network. Who did I forget? I hope I mentioned everyone, and any other protocol observed. Thank you so much, my beautiful sisters who really ran with me day and night. The two Marian. I know, I remember at some point Marian couldn't sleep and she's like, Sadia. So thank you so much for standing with me. And allow me to say a brief comments about the book. Today I am here to launch the book, The Hidden Scars of Female Genital Mutilation. And God has actually given me a talent of reading speech from my head. Once I write it down, everything evaporates. Yeah, because whatever I speak comes from my heart, from the bottom of my heart. Because I believe I'm not like writing what I have to say. This FGM thing happened to me, so I don't need to write it down. I can remember everything that happened to me, and actually that's how I wrote this book. And when it comes to female genital mutilation, we all know that, as even the board director said, we have been fighting FGM for decades, and we are not seeing fruits yet. In my community, FGM prevalence stands at 94%, despite the national prevalence being at 21%. That tells you a lot, that 9 out of 10 girls have already gone through FGM. Where are these survivors? They are within us. Today, I'm sure everyone was shocked when Fatuma stood up and said she was cut twice. Perhaps her story is even more painful than mine. And that's exactly what other women survivors are going through. That is the silence that we need to break. How can we build their confidence so that they can share their stories? These are the survivors whose daughters will be cut. They are silent. They cannot share their stories because they father fear stigma. When you are going through FGM, you run away from the community stigma and the pressure. You have to go through it. But now, after going through FGM, now you face again another stigma of being a survivor, because survivors are branded frigid. So now you cannot even tell what happened to you. That tells you a lot. If a 9-year-old girl, when I was cut, I was 10 years. I was proud to be cut. I was so much excited. And I'm sure all other survivors were excited too, because they really wanted to be complete, to be like other girls, to be clean, to be accepted in the community. What is making them today not to be able to share their stories? Where is the excitement? Because it was a deception. Nobody told them what FGM really is. You will be excited because you think it's something to be proud of. But later on, the regret starts. And again, you cannot now come out and really explain what happened. That's exactly what survivors of FGM go through. And I'm very sure every survivor has a unique story. My story is different from other survivors. and every survivor has something to say, unique and different from the other one. It all depends with how, where, the region, the community, the type of FGM, who performed on you, because even CAPAs, there are those CAPAs who are known, like when they perform FGM on you, there is no repetition. They are like technicians, engineers of female genital mutilation. They are destroying our body, actually. Therefore, this is practically what female genital mutilation is. The board is here, and Madam Ambassador is here. There is something I want to say, but I want the whole world to understand. When we faced the issue of locusts worldwide, everyone wanted to help the affected countries because of the locust issues. They saw it's a crisis, but they need emergency interventions. When COVID-19 came, everyone is running, and that's why today we have few people invited and we are doing online virtual thing, because everyone is concerned about COVID-19, and everyone is now making fighting COVID-19 a priority. We are all wearing masks, washing our hands, observing all rules and regulations, simply because we don't want to be affected by COVID-19. We don't want to lose a life, isn't it? But what happens when it comes to female genital mutilation? Even death itself is normalized. Do you think women and girls are not dying? They are dying every day. Like Honorable Pasari said, there are several girls who died because of FGM. And allow me to tell you the truth, the reality on the ground. Many women and girls die every day because of female genital mutilation. But the reality is no one reports. They feel it's part of our daily lives, like it's a normal thing to go through. When a woman is being rushed through an ambulance just because of delivery, and not because she couldn't deliver, but because we have sewn up all her genitalia, she was unable to do so. Now she is being rushed to a nearby hospital for delivery. Who tells that story? Nobody. Now, when it comes to the deaths, women and girls die every day. We talk about the maternal deaths, but FGM is not yet a priority here in Kenya and also worldwide. We really need to reflect on our minds. What if the 200 million survivors were walking without their lips and noses? I'm sure I couldn't even stand in front of you. I'm very sure. Yes, it couldn't be something I would be exposing or sharing. I would be wearing mask every day, even without COVID, because I cannot display when my lips and nose are chopped off, isn't it? You would be sympathizing with survivors. But what happens in reality? Since FGM is done to hidden genitalia, you see a beautiful, well-dressed girl. She tells you, I'm a survivor of FGM. But you look at her, she's beautiful. So you don't see anything wrong with her. But how can you now justify what is wrong with her without her being confessing? These are the realities on the ground. That women and girls have even more serious stories compared to mine, but still enduring in silence, since it's not taken a serious issue. This book also focuses on the cultural struggle of the girl child. Allow me to say one thing about the other issue of the cultural struggles I'm talking about. When we talk about men and women, and I'm not here pinpointing any man anywhere. When we talk about girl child struggles, I really mean it. We are really struggling. The ground is not the same for us. We are not on the same level ground when it comes to women and men. Today today, for instance, a girl becomes pregnant, she will be embarrassed, stigmatized for the rest of her life. But why is the man who impregnated her? He is somewhere enjoying his life. Whose dream is shattered? The girl. Why? For the scenario, for example, and you are two adults who made a consent, what happens? It's only the woman who is exposed, always, and embarrassed. Even in political spaces, they try to demean and actually ruin the face of the woman politician just because of simple issues that the men look for. Why embarrassment following women and not the men also? If we were in it together, why am I carrying the burden and not you? Why? These are the issues we are facing daily. When it comes to issues of marriage, I come from a community whereby a girl, and I'm sorry, Sheikh, you are here. We are in a community where a girl is not even asked for a consent in marriage. We talk of rape and defilement. What if today I tell you, if a girl is given out to a man, not a choice, he will be raping her for the rest of his life, isn't it? Because you don't have any affection for this man. Your uncles, your fathers, and your brothers sat under a tree, they agreed, that's it. Where is your personal choice? What if we have hearts, we have feelings, we want to have our own choices? How can we make it reality? No way. Because we are never given that space, that voice to speak out and say, this is what I want. We are never given that chance to decide for ourselves. The body is mine, but the decision belongs to our community. So my question is, for example, if today as Sadia Hussein, I decide to make my own personal choice and follow my heart, whoever it is, how is it a community problem? How? I will go to the grave alone? How will you make me happy when you want to make decisions for me? I mean, an individual choice can never be a community problem. Yes, I've seen many Somali girls trolled online for following their hearts. That is very wrong. Nobody condemns when the same girl is being abused by her brother, is being raped by a man from her own community. Nobody talks about it. When she gets pregnant, nobody condemns. But now, she wants to follow her heart. You want to troll her online, offline, everywhere. In fact, some disown them. Some even kill them. So, how is an individual decision a community problem? These are the issues being highlighted on this book. And for the dear men, when it comes to practicing FGM, majority of communities practicing FGM, whether in my community, in our country, Kenya, and globally, wherever FGM is being practiced, one of the biggest one of the biggest reasons that comes out is we want to curb the sexual urge of women and girls. Isn't it? Because you don't want the girl to bring shame to the house. Another question is, now, whose fault is it when the girl gets pregnant? Why do you want to control the girl to preserve her virginity, to be faithful when she is married? Who is controlling you as a man? Who is measuring your virginity? Who is controlling your behaviors? No one. Why don't you trust your partner without undergoing FGM? FGM is never a padlock. The values, my religion, my faith is what can control me, not FGM. And I'm very happy today to the speakers. I'm very sorry. I'm always emotional when I speak because these are the realities, but people never want to speak about because you want to control me, but you don't want to be controlled. If you want to mutilate girls simply because you want to curb their sexual urge, then I would also request then men also to be castrated. Right? If not, then we remain equally. Leave alone controlling me. Let's trust each other. We move together, we live together. Just teach me the values. Teach me how to control myself, how to respect my dignity. Teach me my religion, how I should fear God. Because when you're talking about the girl can bring shame, there is a man involved, and that's a must. So, isn't the man also fearing God? What if we also teach them to fear God? I also fear God. Then at the end of the day, we have a faithful family. What about that? Instead of you wanting to control me over and over and over again. So, that's it for today. I know I have a lot to say, and Jennifer, allow me to stop there because I'm very sure there is only one thing I want to say about when it comes to ending FGM, the reasons we are not ending FGM yet, despite the prevalences being higher, is because each individual ending FGM, each organization, we are all competing. The same goal should be ending FGM. That's the one key objective we all have. But unfortunately, I want to run faster than the other person. At the end of the day, we are duplicating resources. We are not reaching the right people, the key people who are affected. It's conference after conference, and even COVID stopped the conferences, but it was too much. You are speaking for a woman who is cutting her daughter at the rurals, in the dust, where there is no network coverage. You are here speaking on her behalf. You see? So resources are wasted. That's exactly why we were unable. If myself as Sadia, without resources, I have 2 FGM-free villages. What if I was given today 10 million? What would I have done? I would have reached every corner of Tana River. And today I would be now celebrating I have FGM-free Tana River. And perhaps start rolling out the best practices. But simply because as organizations want to compete, we don't look at the best interest of the girl child. Those innocent souls that are suffering, no one cares about that. We only care how to impress the donor. And I'm very sorry to say that. That's the sad reality. Therefore, I humbly request, there is no specific approach that will end FGM. And there is no single person can end FGM. Let us all join hands, like the anti-FGM board motto says, Pamoja. Pamoja means together. It's a collective effort, not an individual effort when it comes to ending FGM. We need the voice of religious leaders. We need the voice of the professionals. We need the health sector because FGM is a health issue. We need the education sector because it affects our education. We need everyone on board, the elders, the men, the survivors themselves. And the last thing I would say, what next after ending FGM? Is it about empowering women and girls or just ending FGM? I leave that challenge to everyone. I hope you will promote and buy my book, inshallah. So that's where I stop, Jennifer. Thank you so much. I have a lot to say. I can speak the whole day without looking for a reference. Yeah, that's it. That's my passion to end FGM. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sadia. Listening to you, I was busy taking notes.
You've said something that I think it's something that it should be in your next book or the title of your next book. Let me just read it. The body is mine, but the decision is the community's. That for me is the body is mine, but the people who are making that decision is, sorry guys. So the body is mine, but the decision is being made by a community on what I should do with my body. And for me, that's I always say, whenever you talk, I try to take notes. I get pointers. It's for my quotes when I'm writing the next paper. So thank you so much. At this juncture, we are going to launch the book, okay? And I'm going to request the ambassador to just stand there, and Sadia will and the anti-FGM board member to stand there, and then Sadia will hand in the books. No, is he here? It's okay, it's okay. So, and she will hand over the books, and then Sadia will sign the book for the ambassador on behalf of all of us who want signed copies, like myself. I've not read this book. I'll be one of those people who will be reading with the rest of us. So sorry guys, those ones who are watching on, I am sorry, let me go back to, I remove. Okay, just hold on for the people who are watching. They want to see also. Reading with the rest of us. Sorry guys, those ones who are watching on, I am sorry, let me go back to. Okay, just hold on for the people who are watching. They want to see also. Reading with the rest of us. Sorry guys, those ones who are watching on, I am sorry, let me go back to. Hold on for the people who are watching. They want to see also. Reading with the rest of us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for that. And congratulations to Sadia. So I would request the two ambassadors online just to say a word. Ambassador Felana, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Oh, yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you kindly just switch on your camera?
That's not possible. Unfortunately, it doesn't work at the moment.
Okay.
So I want to congratulate Sadia and everybody participating to this event of the book launching. I believe that this is a very important moment, and we should really stick to the thing and continue working on it. As from Austria, we have given support to a big UNFPA UNICEF program fighting FGM, and me personally and my embassy will continue supporting the activities of Sadia and all those who are fighting this phenomenon here in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Julia? You have to come here. Julia? Are you there?
Hi, Ambassador Christian.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Yes, hi. How are you?
Very, very fine. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for joining in.
It is a great pleasure and congratulations. Well, very well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I had seen a couple of others. I think they dropped off during the session, but thank you so much. Everyone, all of us can switch on our cameras and we can say congratulations to Sadia, all of us who are online. We can all switch on our cameras and we say congratulations, Yvette, Caroline, Catherine. We all say congratulations to Sadia. Thank you so much for joining in. So the books are available. If you want a copy of the book, we are going to share it. But if you want it, you can contact Sadia on any of her social media platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter. She's very active, especially on Twitter. You can contact her, and she's going to, and please DM her. Sorry, I wanted to give you a number, but I'm told not to give because it's live. So please do go online and just support her. The book is only 2,000 shillings, but the 2,000 shillings is not for her. It is to support her work that she's doing to end female genital mutilation. She's telling her inbox is full of cases, and sometimes she's overwhelmed because she doesn't know what to do. So just go ahead and support her. Go online and buy the book. We are going to share a platform where you can easily access the book and be able to buy it. We really do appreciate you, everyone who has joined in. We really do appreciate. So I will ask our youth anti-FGM to give the thank you remarks, and for the rest of us, or you can come here. I don't know if it's connected. He's going to give the thanks.
Hello, everyone. All protocol observed. My name is Masharia, and representing the Youth Anti-FGM Network. First of all, I would like to thank Sadia for inviting all of us and for this greatest milestone that she has had, and for allowing us to hear her story and why she actually decided to write a book. To Sadia, thank you very much. Be blessed. I think, as you said, and in most of the conversation that most of the panelists said, that sharing stories is a very powerful tool towards encouraging others. And on behalf of everyone who is here, I think it is very important that we get this book so that it encourages us. And it was also good that through this platform that we also had stories from Fatma. And I think I was tweeting and saying to myself, I think my resolve as a male activist has just been encouraged. I heard about Sadia. She's a very good friend of ours. But hearing Fatma's stories, now it brought another whole round of resolve for us as activists and who are working towards ending FGM. Thank you, everyone, and may you be blessed and may you continue towards supporting ending FGM. I always say ending FGM, it's not a one-man show. We have to have a collective responsibility. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Macharia. Thank you so much, Macharia, for that. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to call upon, I think the other sheikh has left. The sheikh who started with us with the word of prayer, I think he can also close for us with the word of prayer. Thank you so much.